when men are no longer seen as providers because they work 9-to-5 jobs and massive chunks of their taxes go to prop up women and go to protect women. And then on top of that, they don't have the same resource accumulation. And also on top of that, there's no necessity for men.
In this video, we're back again with Tim Pool on Timcast IRL. Tim Pool and his team jaws drop when their lefty guest suggests that illegal immigration is the solution to the United States' declining population and birth rates. With that, let's watch Tim Pool and his co-host crush this woke idiot and the dumbest idea I've heard in a while.
Might doesn't make right, but might does make reality. And that's
exactly
it, right? Now, I did want to brush upon one thing where you were talking about, the dangers of a multicultural society, right? Where people no longer share values and they're not connected within the same community. You're absolutely correct. I mean, I would also like to point out that one of the reasons that I think that we have such a big immigration issue in this country is that corporations and NGOs work to push immigration because they need to prop up a failing welfare state. Like we have brought in...
But they're also propping up a failing birth rate as well.
Yeah, I agree. That's what happens when you destroy resource accumulation.
No.
That's what happens when men start waiting until their 30s before they can finally start dating young women.
This is a point that I can
what happens when the dating market is...
This isn't the welfare state, though. This is the sexual revolution. This was 100% has to do with contraception and condoms.
Okay.
So when we're talking about, because the entire world, there's plenty of different areas of the planet that don't have the same welfare stuff, they're still experiencing the same problem. Basically, when you give people contraception, when you give them condoms, the birth rate kind of plummets and it trends towards 2. There's maybe 2 or 3 countries. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 countries that have
it's worse in South
demographic
worse
replacement rate birth rates, and it's like Mongolia and Israel, right? And so Mongolia does that because they're right next to China, and they let's face it, they like banging and riding horses and stuff. And then Israel does it because they feel like they're constantly under threat because they underwent like a genocide or an ethnocide at the early of the 20th century. I almost guarantee you, if you gave them an environment in which they weren't under threat in suffering a recent ethnocide or genocide, their demographic replacement.
Okay. Hold on. You made the argument, right? It is this thing. The answer is never univariate, right? Like I agree that birth rates and family planning are made
to support
possible.
The welfare state, it's also to support our economy.
Can I ruin everything by making a point? The birth rate of Gaza is higher than Israel.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
I would still say that
just set the chat on fire.
They're under threat.
I was just
joking about making an.
I agree that when you have contraception, right? When women enter the workforce, when modern hygiene for women products, become available, when indoor plumbing becomes available, when the birth control pill, that all of these things have an effect on the growth of families and the birth rate, right? What I am saying is that there is a chicken and egg scenario.
Sure.
That I agree that these things allow women to wait a longer.
Yeah, Democrats do this all the time. They make an argument, like the pay gap, for instance, and they say, well, there's a disparity between men and women's pay. That's unfair. It's like they have a hard time understanding how many variables contribute to disparity in things. I don't think there's a question that condoms and birth control have affected birth rates worldwide. However, he just named some other things. One contributor to that was women's hygiene products for their time of the month. When those things weren't available, my understanding is they had to stay home to manage their period, essentially. I mean, it was hard. You can't just go on with your day if you don't have female hygiene products, invented by a man, by the way. So it's multivariate. But I will say a lot of those variables that have been thrown into society, I don't mean loosely, I mean directly correlate with feminism and the breakdown of the nuclear family. Women have been lied to about what will make them happy and what will fulfill them. And obviously the problem of single mother homes in the country, the increase in divorces, another variable that strongly correlates with feminism and the breakdown of nuclear family is the country's declining percentage of citizens that identify as Christian. The more we move away from Judeo-Christian values, I promise the birth rates will continue to decline. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Time to have children, which lowers the range of time that they are fertile, right? Which of course lowers the amount of children that they tend to have over a period of time. Obviously, technological innovations in IVF and things like that extend that window to a certain degree, right? So both of these things are true. But what I am saying is that when men are no longer seen as providers because they work 9-to-5 jobs and massive chunks of their taxes go to prop up women and go to protect women. And then on top of that, they don't have the same resource accumulation. And also on top of that, there's no necessity for men, right? I absolutely agree that men have to go through trials and tribulations in order to become men, but there is no necessity. The state does everything for you. Whereas before, men knew that they needed to go out and bust ass if they wanted to make sure that they could take care of their parents and if they wanted to have a family.
Sure.
And all of these things being devoid of them have changed the way that women view men. Women do not view men in any level of respect, partially because they've checked out, but partially because they're not achieving things, but partially because they're protected.
But this is okay. Here's my point, though. I hear what you're saying, but one of the things that you said was prop up and protect women. Now, this is through the state, through taxation, and therefore it feels more ephemeral, and therefore it's the negative sacrifice that you were talking about. You're paying for an altruism that you don't necessarily agree with, okay?
Yes.
I hear you. However, what I am here to say, which is going to be uncomfortable for young men, is suck it up, buttercup. Your previous generations also went through a bunch of garbage. The generation before that went through even more. The generation before that went through even more. And on top of that, if enough men check out of society and they start smoking pot, playing video games, not being productive, not paying their taxes, not et cetera, this is all going to fall apart. And
Agreed.
so this is
That's the easiest revolution ever. Guys, you don't got to fight. You just got to sit around and play
you got to sit around and do nothing because the entire
system will
economic
collapse.
system is going to
Right.
collapse. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if you do like eating good food, if you do like good entertainment, if you do like the ability to date women, if you do like a peaceful society in which you don't murder people, then you need to get up off your ass.
I agree with everything you're saying, but quick point, right? I'm sorry. Am I annoying? No, quick point, right? I agree with you that we need to teach that message to men. I agree that it's important. I agree with everything that you just said.
You just
the
state stealing from them?
No, what I'm saying is that the problem is if we're going to talk about pragmatics, then we have to be honest about pragmatics. No amount of education, no amount of you can spend billions on don't smoke cigarettes ads. And you know what happens? Barely the needle moves.
But
generationally,
I think this is a bad example because
oh my god,
generation is substantively down.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a bad example.
It's not a bad example. Over time, over generations, it changed.
Sure.
For sure. Over the introduction of vaping, it changed to some degree. But the thing that has immediate impact, what we are talking about is incentives and behavior from the state, right? You can put out campaigns, you can talk to young men, you can do what you want with them, and you're going to have some effect. And I hope you do. I really hope you do, because I believe just like you do that those messages need to be sent to young men. But the problem is just like a gas tax, just like a cigarette tax, a tax on working, which is what we have, a gargantuan tax on building wealth, working, businesses, etc., massively disincentivizes that behavior. And some classes and some fucking streamers telling them some things and a couple of we need to sell these things better is not going to have the same effect as the state's intervention.
And then I would go left wing, and then I would say that we need living wages. So
I think it is perfectly fine if there are young men out there that say, I'm going to argue for the same position as Fabian Liberty, because you want to fight for
I agree with what that gentleman said too. Men can't wait around for someone else to give them a good reason to get off their ass and go work. I mean, that's what you need to do. You got to go out, bust your ass. That will increase the likelihood that you'll find a mate and have a family and have children. But the lies that have been told to women do a lot of things. But one is they make men working hard, busting their ass, paying for everything, supporting an entire family, just something men should do. And they can't complain about it because women are so oppressed by having to stay at home with their children, which I'd argue is one of the greatest gifts a man gives a woman and their children by working. So if women look at guys like a wallet and that's just what they're there for while they do the things that they want to do, why would a man that you're encouraging to get off of his ass, who works really hard, accumulates wealth, sacrifices, should that person then just hand all that over to a woman who doesn't appreciate him at all and makes everything about her quote unquote needs and her quote unquote being fulfilled? They always say, I want a partner and I don't want to be submissive. First of all, the word submissive always throws them off because, again, women have been told they can do it all and that they don't need a man. And how dare a man make a decision about the household or the family that she disagrees with, because there are going to be disagreements inevitably, right? Someone has to make the final decision if the couple can't agree on something. And women have such a problem with that being the man that they resent men and say, I don't need a man. And then when they do get with a man, they go in with that attitude like, you can't tell me what to do. It's a big problem. It really is the messaging to men and women, as well as, like I said, a billion other variables, some of which I just discussed. Anyway, let's wrap.
For your country and you want to fight to change it. I accept that. I also think that some people may say, you know what, I've decided to protest by sitting around playing video games and smoking pot. But I also think that there are people, I've met them, who complain but don't want to engage. And my attitude for them is, my friend, you can easily go down to Mexico. You can go to Alaska. There's a great movie about it, Into the Wild. There is no requirement that you live within the system of roads, military, police, EMTs, clean running water, air conditioning, and water. Most jurisdictions have laws requiring that they provide water to you. Well, maybe not most, but it's because it's typical. I believe Arizona has a law. I could be wrong, but these Mojave states, if you walk into an establishment, they must provide water if they ask for it, because you die. So I look at it this like, we all have clean running water, even if you're homeless. You can walk into a Taco Bell and ask for a cup. They'll give you one. That's tremendous luxury. Clean running. You're not going to. Man, people used to drink beer all the time because the water was dirty, and now we have clean running water everywhere. So there's a wealth, even if you just decide to do nothing.
But we want to hear from you. What do you guys think about this conversation about the declining birth rates and population in the U.S. and this guy's ridiculous idea that illegal immigration is a great way to solve that? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next one.